Today we're going to be looking at a Drosophila germarium. Here on the right we have an egg chamber. This is a two-dimensional slice, and on the left you can see the cap cells here at the anterior. This green blob is just part remaining of a muscle sheath of some kind. You can also see different colors representing different cysts as they mature through a germarium. Okay. Got red and green and blue colors here, and every combination there within. Okay, you can see a green cyst here, a red and green cyst there, and in white we also have stained a Fas3 protein, which surrounds the follicle cells and the region 3 cyst on the posterior end of the germarium. Take you through the slices here. These are each slice taken from a confocal microscope and stacked on top of each other, which will allow us to then reconstruct these near two-dimensional images into a three-dimensional comprehensive image later in this video. Okay? And again, we are able to do differential color labeling of cysts and somatic cells to create a contrast to be able to tell what cells are. And the Fas3 surrounded red somatic cells here, being the follicle cells, clearly labeled, and here we have the somatic cells that aren't wrapped in the white Fas3 protein, representing stem cells, the posterior end of the germarium. Now here in 3D, we see the same images all stacked on top of each other, now merged, with the right side being the egg chamber, the left side having that same muscle sheath remnant, and the cap cells at the anterior tip. Okay, so we have these red and green cysts, these yellow appearing cysts, blue cysts, lots of bright red somatic cells, and that white stained Fas3 protein. Here I'll also turn on these volumes that I was able to make from these two-dimensional images, tracing them and stitching them together to create a region 3 cyst there. And then in pink we also created a Fas3 surrounded follicle cells. Turn those off, it's a little busy with them on. Okay, and then also tracing that Fas3 protein here with this gray outline in 3 dimensions. And then in yellow, we have a transitioning region 3 cyst, so that's going to come in and take the region 3. It's starting to get surrounded by Fas3. In pink, we have a 2B cyst, which is flattened. And then in white, we have both 2A cysts at the posterior end going into the region 1 cysts, which are much smaller, being those 2 to 4 to 8 cell cysts. And we can see the Fas3 here, and all the way to the left, you have the cap cells and terminal cells. Popping up here in red are going to be the layer 1 follicle stem cells that are abutting the Fas3 protein but not surrounded by it. And then directly anterior of them are going to be the orange layer 2 cells. So now this is a whole cell body away from the Fas3 protein on the anterior side of those red layer 1 stem cells, follicle stem cells. And lastly, of the stem cell layers, we have the third layer, which I've labeled in yellow. We've got one hiding back here behind that layer 2 cell. So that's going to be 2 cell bodies away from the Fas3 protein, right anterior of the orange layer 2 cells, and near the region 2A cysts here in white. Okay, and then after the layer 3, we're going to have escort cells, which are going to be marked here in green for the 2A escort cells. That's the more posterior escort cells. We've got one large green one here that's really hugging that rounded 2A cyst there. And these are going to help package those cysts. We've got 2 more tiny 2A cysts here. And we're only seeing their main bodies. We're not seeing their projections, but they have these cell membranes that expand out from them and surrounding and packaging these 2A cysts and helping to keep them packaged properly as they mature and grow in the posterior direction through a germarium. In blue here, we're going to have the anterior escort cells surrounding the region 1 cysts. Those are going to be the 2, 4, and 8 cell cysts. These do the same thing as the 2A cysts. They may be just a little bit smaller, but they also segregate and package the early region 1 cysts. I'll spin this around a little bit so that you can see everything that's going on here. We have the Fas3 border with our red layer 1 cells, our orange layer 2 cells, and our yellow layer 3 cells. Right there, yeah, see they're abutting that Fas3 protein but not surrounded by it, as well as the pink 2b, it's abutting that Fas3 but not surrounded by it. Whereas the yellow transitioning 3 cyst is surrounded by it, and the 2a cysts are further anterior, surrounded by the green escort cells, and even further anterior you have the region 1 cells, cysts being surrounded by the region 1 escort cells. Okay? That's kind of the entire composition of our germarium. I'm just turning off some of these channels now so you can just see these volumetric reconstructions of the fluorescence that I was able to trace from those two-dimensional images. Okay. Now let's take a closer look at the region 3 cyst. So here it is, it's starting to round up a lot. Just anterior of it, the yellow one is also starting to round up, and both of those are surrounded by the Fas3 protein. These are going to also be surrounded by follicle cells, which have been differentiated. And anterior of that, you have the pink 2b cyst, surrounded by the red layer 1s, the orange layer 2s, and the yellow layer 3 follicle stem cells that are near the Fas3 expression, but not surrounded by it. Okay. We're just going to turn off a few of these features so we can get a bit of a closer look at what all of these somatic cells are doing here. Okay. So just turning off the white layer region 2A and region 1 cysts. And we'll take a closer look at how these cells kind of interact with the 2B cyst. Yeah. Okay, so in pink is our 2B cyst, abutting the Fas3 border, surrounded by a ring of first layer 1 red labeled follicle stem cells, layer 1 follicle stem cells, and then a layer of orange layer 2 follicle stem cells, and lastly the yellow layer 3 follicle stem cells. Okay. They really, squeeze their way in there. You can see how the 2B cyst really bends around it. Okay. And there you can see that it is abutting the Fas3 expression outlined in gray, but nothing is encapsulated by it. Once encapsulated by Fas3, it'll be considered differentiated from a follicle stem cell into a follicle cell. So the ones that are closest to it, the layer 1s, are going to be the next ones to differentiate. Then looking anterior, we can see these 2A cysts here as well. There's 3 of them outlined here. The 2 on the left are much rounder and smaller. These are typical 2A cysts. But on the right here, we have one that's starting to flatten out. It's only taking up half of the width of the germarium, but seeing that it has started to flatten out, we can tell that it is going to be transitioning and probably taking the place of this 2B cyst once it matures and leaves the germarium. Well, starts to leave the germarium. Okay. And then we have the much smaller region 1 cysts that I'm going to put back here as well. See what those look like once more. And there we have the region 3, clearly encapsulated by the Fas3. And the transitioning region 3 there in yellow. You can see how it's rounding up as well, in that bowl-like shape before it balls up like the region 3. Okay. And that's our basic framework here again of the germarium. Bring back in the Fas3 so you can see how the transitioning region 3 is surrounded. And this is all taken from this two-dimensional image. So you can see how all those colors have dropped, but the Fas3 remains same here, traced almost exactly. Okay. Turn these channels back off again, just to keep it simple. Okay. Turn off some of these cysts one more time, and we can take a closer look at how the stem cells are arranged within the germarium. Okay, so I've already said once or twice that we have 3 layers of follicle stem cells. Layer 1 being red, layer 2 being orange, layer 3 being yellow. But what we miss a lot of the time in two-dimensional cartoons of a germarium is just how these stem cells are arranged. So not only are they abutting the Fas3 expression, but they're also surrounding the entirety of the germarium. You can see here clearly that the red, orange, and yellow cells are arranged in almost a ring around the circumference of the germarium. And I'll bring back the 2B cysts as well so you can kind of see just how tightly packed this space can be, right? So you can see how those red cells are really squeezed in there. These cells, again, are going to have long projections that are going to help frame this 2B cyst as well. But they are not encapsulated by Fas3 yet, so they're still undifferentiated and still considered follicle stem cells. All right, so let's just bring everything back and look at this holistically one more time before the end of this video. Okay, now with everything turned on, we once again have a full picture of the germarium with the follicle cells being labeled in pink. Again, that's a little bit much going on, so we'll just look at the remainder of this. Okay, we'll rotate it so you can see from every angle how these escort cells and cysts are all embedded with each other, interacting constantly. And you've already seen in this video how those cysts are transitioning. All of these escort cells, of course, are also moving, and the follicle stem cells are moving as well, able to interact and interchange layers and cell types themselves, where follicle stem cells can reach back and become escort cells as well as reaching forward in the posterior and becoming follicle cells, which will surround the region 3 cyst as it's getting ready to bud and become its own egg chamber. Right? And with that, thank you for watching.